hear me, brother?
All right, you're coming in, man. The planets are getting out of the way. It looks like you're tuning in now.
All right, praise God. All right, we adapted and we overcame, so very good. Great to hear from you. It's always great to be back on with you. And boy, do we ever have a lot to talk about tonight.
Well, we sure do. And Bill, I see you're one of the unlucky few, I guess, that never got raptured today, man, to the September 23rd. You didn't qualify or what?
Oh, amazing, right? I mean, that is just, it's unfathomable. And mark my words on this, Daniel, that this very same bunch, and there seems to be an ever-growing group of these type of people, and they really have great power over the people that listen to what they're saying, because, it frightens people. People are, certainly, you don't want to be faced with something that could be the end. For me, I could care less, because we know that God's heavenly kingdom is 1,000,000 times greater than anything here on this earth could ever be. So I have no fear of death or an end or anything else. For me, the end is a brand new beginning. And so, but a lot of people have that type of fear, and they are really ruled by that fear by these types of individuals, and they know who they are. And I made a posting on one of my Facebook pages this evening to tell them to stop, because I guarantee you these people will be making posts probably within the next few days to a week with brand new dates of this day. It was a slight miscalculation. It'll be this date that it's happening. So, if you really research this, and I have, this goes back almost to the beginning of time. There have been people calling for the end since almost the beginning. And a classic example of this took place in 1899 when the Catholic Church made this proclamation and announcement that the world was going to end on January 1st, 1900. So all of the parishioners began to sign over their properties and give away all of their assets and monies, everything, to the church. And then when January 1st of 1900 came and went, those people didn't have anything, and they couldn't get their possessions back either. So here's how I'll sum this up for me. I would never dare to make such an announcement unless God himself came to me and said, I want you to make this announcement. Otherwise, I would never dare make such an announcement. These people don't realize that, if they really read the Bible, that these types of prophets, these false prophets, if they were not accurate on their prophecy, they were put to death. So if, they made these bold claims and predictions and prophecies and they didn't come to pass, then it was the end of the world for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody in the live chat pointed out that the day's not over with, so there's still a chance for something to happen, man.
Well, let's say this, and I hope that person isn't optimistically seeking some sort of momentous event here from the time we're at 8:19 p.m. Eastern. So from 8:19 p.m. Eastern to midnight, let's pray that person's not seeking an earth-shattering, earth-ending event. So I'm very grateful and thankful that God has blessed us with the gift of life. Mm-hmm. I intend to live it to the fullest in each and every day, and I thank him and praise him for each and every day. And I refuse to be ruled by fear. I refuse to be guided by any man. It's God that guides me, so there's no man that could come to me with these types of things and say, oh, that's it, it's over. I would not believe it for 1 second. I would have to pray about that. And then if God revealed something to me, then, I would go after that, take it and move accordingly after that. But it's just amazing, brother. It really is. It's amazing how people can have influence over groups of people, certainly when it comes to these types, and I call them tactics because it's fear-based, trauma-based tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, now look, I talk about some disturbing content. I have experienced some disturbing and horrific things. But everything that I say is true. And everything that I say to people, don't take my word for it. Do the research for yourself. Mm-hmm. So in everything that I try to say and present, I always have a basis for that. So I can back up what I say. So I would never just aimlessly run off at the mouth and say all these crazy things and then have people in a panic, and it's not true. So we just always have to be careful of the words that we choose. And, when I'm talking about disturbing things, like we're going to talk about some disturbing things tonight, I pray about that. I ask God to guide me, and we'll ask him again here. And Father, thank you, praise you for this blessed appointed time, and I ask that you guide me in truth. May everything that I say be truthful, and may people take the time to verify what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And may their eyes be opened, and may they have a broader understanding, and may this increased knowledge be power for them. And may you have a blessing over Daniel and the entire audience listening in or watching tonight. And by your mighty power, Father, in your mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, we bind up all demons, Satan and all of his demons and all of his fallen angels and all of his unclean spirits and powers and principalities. We bind and rebuke them and cast them out and off and away. And we command them to depart at once. Yahweh rebuke you in Jesus' name. And Father, we give you the praise and the thanks and the glory forevermore in Jesus' name.
Bill, let me ask you, in the larger sense of the word, of the event of the September 23rd, there are, of course, DVDs out there full of information explaining why it's all going down on the 23rd. Certainly there's websites dedicated to it. There's people's Facebook feeds are full of it. But that's a two-sided sword there. But isn't it the larger picture that people are looking for an escape? They're looking for a life preserver. There is a certain fear, an innate fear that they have, whether it's real or imagined. And when somebody comes up with a September 23rd, it's like they can finally get out of here. They're finally going to be rescued from the horror that they see every day on the news. They won't be nuked. They won't have hordes of people rampaging through the streets, busting windows and such. There won't be anarchy. They're looking for an escape. They have this fear that somehow this has been kind of built up within them, and then somebody comes with a date, they see it as a life preserver, as a way to escape all that. So in a way, it's an escapism. But on the other side of that, then there is this massive letdown, and they're still right back where they were with every problem that was before the date. They still have after the date. They have to deal with it in another way rather than looking for a rescue 911 like that. What do you say to that?
You're right on the mark. I mean, you're exactly right. Everything you said there, and it's sad and unfortunate. And what I say to people out there that are hurting and that are suffering and that are just tired of all the things that are taking place in the world, when you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Mm-hmm. And the way to tie the knot and hang on is to have faith. And this is why it is so important to establish or reestablish your everlasting covenant with God through Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. There is no other way. And I can assure you, as being someone who was seeking death for the longest time, and I was in many life-threatening situations and was very reminiscent of the character in The Lethal Weapon, the Mel Gibson character, the Martin Riggs, who was doing all those crazy things trying to bring about his death. That was me in real life. And so I understand it. But I can tell you this. When I made the decision to make God first in my life, sincerely, and that requires a lifelong commitment, that requires a serious commitment. Mm-hmm. And when I consciously and seriously decided to do that, my life changed 1,000,000 times for the better. I have a very wonderful and blessed life, and I'm very thankful for it. But it wasn't until I decided to reestablish my covenant with God through Jesus Christ that my life changed. And I'm forever grateful and thankful to God for sparing my life so many times when he could have very easily have taken it and just took me right on out of here. I thank him and praise him for sparing me, because he had this calling on my life to be who I am and to be where I am right now, and I'm very thankful for that. So for anybody out there, and certainly like Daniel said, I totally agree with what he said. It's true. Some of you were let down right now because you were really thinking that this was your exit out of the world, and I'm sorry for that. But if you are in a place of despair, if you are in a really dark and bad place, please contact me, BillBean.net, or BillBeanMinistries.com. You can punch my name into Google. It'll come up. You can contact me, and I'll certainly do anything that I can for you to help you in any way that I can in connecting with God or reconnecting with God, and helping you to establish your everlasting covenant with God through Jesus Christ.
Okay, all right, Bill.
And then you can move forward.
Okay, let's get to some questions here. Steve L. is out of the live chat and wants to know, why do most humans not want to take responsibility for their actions?
Well, that's the theme nowadays. I mean, it wasn't always that way, but society has progressively gotten worse the more liberal we become. And look, let me just say this right now. I love all people. I have nothing against anybody. And God has worked through me to help people from all different backgrounds and races and everything else. So I love everybody. However, I am a Christian conservative, and I make no apology for it. I do believe in law and order. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. I've made many mistakes in my life, but I truly try to do the best I can do and be the best that I can be on a daily basis.
All right, Bill. Okay. All right. Let me get to another part of this then, and I'm going to interject here. There seems to be a order of chaos developing in this country, and for the smallest of things, chaos erupts. Now, I suppose you heard this come through the Facebook feed or other news type of situations. Hobby Lobby recently got in big trouble because they had a piece of cotton in a bottle. This sent the liberal leftists into the stratosphere. A lot of them went running to their safe spaces. A lot of them they got out the Play-Doh or played with themselves, probably both. But it scared the crap out of them. This is where we're at, because somewhere down the line earlier, people didn't say there is a right and wrong, and there's a way of behavior, and there's a way to not behave. But now all bans, all order, all restraints have been lifted. So the most ridiculous sort of complaint and offense is now being had between everyone. Now that appears to me to be a sort of a spirit of chaos. Has something been unleashed on this country that has not been fully explained?
Once again, I'm in total agreement with you, my brother. And you said it very well and summed it up very well. And yes, I absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, believe that something wicked has been unleashed, not only on our country, but on the world. And I think the devil is in the details. I think that certainly the devil is responsible, and he has a group of minions that are doing his bidding. And Ronald Reagan said this on September 21st, 1987. This was a speech given to the UN, and he said, I quote, "I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside of this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?" I think Ronald Reagan knew something back then, and I think that this has progressively gotten worse and gotten to the point to where, and we're heading for something to where if you say one wrong word, you're just going to be just totally destroyed. I mean, this is this political correctness. It's going to levels of madness and insanity. It's like a spell has been cast over some of these people, and there's no reasoning with them. They believe what they believe, and you just can't reach them. It's just like they have been totally hypnotized or brainwashed or something.
Okay. Here's a question from our Fast Blast. It says, Bill, have you seen the headline about cost cutter stores in London using the veins in the fingertips for payment? I think we're referring to the mark of the beast. I know in was it Wisconsin that this whole company chipped everybody in there. Is this a precursor, or is this the mark of the beast officially?
I feel, in my opinion now, I can't say this for sure because I don't know the circuitry of these chips or what's involved. I wasn't there, but I'm basing this on my belief and opinion now. It's my belief and opinion based on prayer and study that these are the actual chips, the actual mark of the beast chips that these people are currently taking. And I really believe, and this is something that I want to get into with you as we progress into the show about this AI and what the end game is, where this is leading. But I think that we are on the fast track to the masses accepting and willingly taking this mark of the beast, which are these biochips, and they're going to be tricked in such a clever way that millions and millions are going to line up and they're going to take it like candy.
Well, I'll tell you what, they try to stick me with a chip, they're going to be finding that place in a place where it's dark and nasty. All right, let's get to this other question.
I'm with you.
Hey, you know what? I was thinking about this earlier. The reason that I would say within the next 5 years, pedophilia is going to be legalized. It's going to be taken off. It's going to be taken off the list of psychotic activities, and we're being prepped for that right now. But before anything like that ever happens, there's kind of like there's these little outbursts, these little quakes of what's coming down the road. But the reason for that seems to be that earlier, you say years earlier, when there was a defining moment between right and wrong, truth and lies, good and evil, the good people of America don't take a definitive stand. Now, an example of that, of taking a stand, I guess you could say, at Trump's rally last night when he told anyone who disrespects the flag out in the NFL, they just fire the son of a bitch. Sorry, that's a quote there. Don't mean to offend you, Bill. But there's
he's right. No, you're not offending me. It's the truth. I mean, hey, he's right in what he says.
Right,
I agree.
Right. Now, he took a definitive stand. Now, that irks people because the society is not used to people taking a definitive stand. When Obama was in the Senate, I think that he didn't vote on 95% of the bills that came through, so he could not be tagged either way of being support or against. And that's pretty much the way politicians are. They never really give you a clear, definitive answer. They never really take a definitive stand. And so I'm just saying this sort of culture creep into the abyss is because stands are not being taken. So here we are. We're going to, the pedophilia is just a result of transvestites in the military, which is a result of gay marriage, which is a result of, legalized live-in, lover type thing. I mean, it goes back. So what kind of stance should we take, say, against a new world order to prevent, say, the rolling out of the mark of the beast? Or is it too late?
I don't think it's too late. And I think what we could do and what we should do, and believe you me, if such a thing were organized, I'd be first in line to say, hey, let's come together because there's a lot more of us than there are of these evildoers that are trying to implement these things. So I would say let's come together as a nation and say we're not having this. Just like people came together and voted Trump in and said, hey, we're not having any more of this. So people were sick and tired. They were, fed up, and they came together and voted President Trump in. I think a similar thing needs to happen now in saying that we are coming together as a nation of good, decent, hardworking American citizens that are fed up with all this garbage, and we are not going to take it anymore. We're not going to have it anymore. So it would really, it would come down to like another form of a revolution. That's really how this would come down to combat what is taking place. Now, I truly believe, Daniel, that the demonic minions that the devil has sent, some of them at least, are these reptilian alien beings, and I think they are responsible for all of this chaos, and I think they're responsible for all of these bloodlust and these desecration of flesh and, these unnatural sex acts and these offering up of sacrifices and all of these things. So when you bring in the Pizzagate, worldwide pedophilia ring and how what you said that, this garbage will be legalized at some point, it's for a reason, because they think they're gaining great power by doing these wicked and heinous acts to children.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you something, Bill. Getting to the geoengineering, is the calamities that are hitting this side of the hemisphere, and it seems to be just this side of the hemisphere, is this a result? Is this sort of a vengeance payback for Trump even being in office?
And again, I urge everybody out there, you don't have to believe a word I'm saying when I say these things. I just urge you to research. And so Daniel makes a good point here again. I feel that HARP is behind some of this. High Active Auroral Research Program, which originated in Gakona, Alaska, and now supposedly there's 37 or more of these installations around the world, one in the United States, which is in Long Island, New York. And I truly believe, based on what I've studied about this and based on videos that I've seen of this device at work, I truly believe that they have the technological capabilities of producing some of these superstorms and hurricanes and earthquakes and everything else. I truly believe it. So it is possible. Again, am I there? No. Do I know this for sure? No. But I say this, that it is possible for this device alone, not even factoring in CERN or the D-Wave computers, just this device alone, to be able to create havoc on our Earth.
Mm-hmm. Now, somebody pointed out, I'm not really going to go there, but I think Florida and Texas both went to Trump, and somebody could easily make that. But, if you look at the original storm track of the hurricanes, I mean, it looks like somebody's got that on a computer screen and moving it around. Did you kind of get that freaky feeling, Bill?
I sure did, and I saw another video, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but I did see it, and I saw the video, and I saw what was on the video. It was supposedly satellite imagery of Harvey. When Harvey was approaching Texas, it was no doubt, it was a gigantic storm, from the start. But as Harvey is approaching Texas, and this, again, is supposed to be from satellite imagery, there's this object that shows up. And then it goes like a projectile into Harvey, and it just blows it up and expands it. Like, I don't know what this was, and if it was real, it was astonishing. Whatever it was went into the hurricane and just exploded it and made it that much bigger.
Wow. And, of course, it had a lot more damage, too. Now, Puerto Rico was wiped out. And so I did some research on Puerto Rico. Now, they're a bunch of Democrats down there because I think at least 35% of that island is on United States government food stamps. So I have no idea why Puerto Rico is even a territory other than just a big welfare state down there. And, I'll
tell you why, Daniel.
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because there are secret bases there in Puerto Rico, and they do some pretty interesting and horrific testing as well. So military black ops are taking place on the island of Puerto Rico. So that's why it's necessary to have them.
Well, they got destroyed, and of course, we're not saying we're glad that anybody had their place destroyed.
No,
but
God bless those people, and and I pray that they get relief and they get help, and I certainly pray for the people of Texas and for Florida. Also, I have friends, lots of friends in those places, and I pray for them and been praying for them, and I pray that God brings relief to all of them.
Well, yeah, and what I would hope is, what I'd hope for anybody is that life is precarious. There needs to be perhaps once they rebuild a revival to get back. And maybe that's the thing for a lot of people, is that people assume that the government is always going to be there to bail them out when they're not. I'm sure everybody's waiting for the government to bail people out. People need to be secure in their own things, be able to survive themselves, and need to have a faith to get them through. Because if people, with the culture the way it is, it's in a rampage to destroy every shred of faith in people's lives. And they, believe me, there must be a whiteboard somewhere where they're saying, okay, take the Bible out of schools, stop prayer, football games, take down the Ten Commandments, institute gay marriage. There must be a whole list of things that somebody else is doing, and taking away faith, of course, is part of that, and that undergirds their ability to think clearly for themselves and to be self-sufficient. So to me, it's just self-destructive, but maybe people can rebuild their spiritual lives once they rebuild their natural lives.
And you're so right again, man. You're clicking tonight. I agree with everything that you're saying, and this is part of an agenda, a gigantic agenda, Daniel, that has been taking place since the mid to late 50s. I've studied and researched that it's been said that certainly from the beginning of the 50s to the mid 50s was the greatest time for American families in our nation. And then the devil got involved in this to where it was an agenda to destabilize the families. And how can you destabilize good, strong American families? They did it through music. And so they created a rebellion through certain types of music. When Hell in the Comets came along, and I'm sorry to say this because, hey, I'm a musician, and I used to play in bands and all that stuff, but I'm also a truth seeker, and the truth of the matter is that there was a real agenda to create rebellion in children, and the way to do it was through music, and that created sexual promiscuity. It also created alcohol and drug use. So in the beginning, it was the sexual promiscuity, and then when the Beatles came along, that's when the whole drug culture manifested, and I do believe that there were black ops involved in that too, and pumping drugs into the neighborhoods and at the concerts and all those kind of stuff. So this was a concerted effort. It was a very well-calculated plan that was unleashed on our country back in the mid-50s. So we're seeing the results of that now. So this has been a very long process, but this is what I call social engineering, and it has created not only the rebellion, but it has captured the minds of a lot of our youth. So, where that started off with the rebellion and the things that followed that, now look, I mean, just look at the music of today, and it is garbage. It's filth, and it is evil to the core.
Yeah, that reminds me, there's a news report come out this week. I guess at a certain college, some young white girls were singing to a rap song, and the rap song was full of the N-word. So they were singing along with the song with the N-word. Well, that triggered a bunch of people. Said, "Hey, you can't say the N-word because you're white." It's like they were just singing to the song. So I'm thinking, well, what's the rule here? You guys put out in public, and people are buying records full of the N-word and the whole word and the bitch word. But then now they said, but wait a minute, you can't sing that. You're not qualified. I mean, who is making these rules, man? It is bizarre out there.
Okay, so again, this is part of the Aleister Crowley Manifesto. And Aleister Crowley, for those who don't know who that individual is, or was, he's one of the most wicked individuals that ever walked the face of the earth in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And he was a sick and evil individual to the core. He did horrific things to women and children, and he was known as the Beast in 666 and all these other things. But one of his mantras was, "Do what thou wills to hold the law." And so when the Beatles came along, they took up that mantra, and everybody that followed them, that became the mantra. And if you look and study these bands, from the Beatles to even current groups of today, you will somehow find or see or read or hear some link to Aleister Crowley between these bands, because they all give him praise and pay homage to him. And I'm thoroughly convinced now that probably 90% or more of today's entertainers are sold out. They can't be in these high places without selling out.
No.
So they are under control, and they have to do things, and that goes for athletes as well. And they have to do things, and they have to pay homage to the devil, and they're masters. It's amazing. that this topic of slavery comes up. And again, I am not a racist. I love everybody. However, you have to tell it like it is. And so in these mentions of slavery and how oppressed people are, and believe me, I am not for slavery or anything like that, but I feel that these people that are sold out, whether it's in these bands or athletes or whatever, they are so miserable, and they all have to take drugs and they drink heavily and all that because they're trying to escape the reality of what they've done. And what they've done is they've sold out. So they have turned away from God because they have signed up with the devil, who's promised them all these riches and fame and fortune and all that. And then once they sign and sell out, they literally become slaves to their masters. Mm-hmm. So if you want to talk about slavery, take a look there.
Well, hey, here's a fun fact. Speaking of slavery, Muslims over time have enslaved millions of white people, and they had a actually, it was an Arab slave trade. The whole thing, the whole Middle East is filled with that, grabbing white folks and putting them into slavery. So, not every culture is, immune to slavery. Everybody's had their bout with that. So let's just get that out on a fun fact. All right, here's.
And I totally agree, Daniel. I totally agree with it. And again, I say this, and I would have a debate with, anybody on the topic that wanted to debate in this, that, again, I'm not against anybody, but let's talk about facts. And what Daniel has said here is absolutely true, that every race of people has had to come under some form of oppression or slavery at some point in their existence. So I just think it's unfair, and it's really insensitive in a way to mention just one group of oppressed people when there have been many groups of oppressed people. So, again, I steer away from the Black Lives Matter to all lives matter.
All right. Okay, here's a question now. This is from Steve Ellis out of live chat. Do you think that there is a mass mind control being used against the population?
Absolutely. And I've said this I've studied about this for, probably 22, 23, 24 years now. And, people called me crazy back then. They called me a conspiracy theory nut, you name it. But all of these things that I said back then are now coming true. And some of those very same people are coming to me saying, you know what, you were right about that. We see it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I said it when the cell phones first came in. I said those towers are more than just some sort of tower for cell phones. They are emitting some type of frequency that is affecting human behavior. And we as human beings, we operate on frequency and vibration. So if there are frequencies pumped out there that could affect our balance, our frequency and vibration, and then manipulate that in a way to create erratic behavior, then I absolutely 100% believe it. There was a movie, Daniel. It came out in 1987. It was called They Live. Do you remember that? Roddy Piper, the WWF wrestler.
Yeah.
And the movie was about these aliens that had taken over the planet, and they were pumping out this frequency from this high tower. It was this this frequency tower that was on top of like a skyscraper. And it was emulating CNN, imagine that, right? And so the tower is on top of this building, and it is emitting this frequency and vibration that kept everybody asleep. And the aliens had human appearance, so people couldn't see them until Roddy Piper finds these sunglasses, and you put on the glasses, and then you could see, that you could see the aliens who are impersonating, the humans. You could see them for who they are and what they are. And so anyway, the whole thing, the whole control thing, was due to this tower that was emitting the frequency and vibration against the masses.
Yeah, and now something like that recently happened too. Didn't some of our ambassadors in Cuba just have what was it? They were beaming things into their mind in their apartments?
Yes, and isn't that amazing? And, the officials there, Castro and his people, they, vehemently deny any involvement in this. But I find it very interesting that it hasn't happened to any Cubans that we've heard. So, I mean, what in the world's going on? Why did this happen? Investigators have been there. They can't find any traces of anything, yet it happened. So how did it happen? God only knows. And the people who have this technology to do this know. But
okay.
I believe it was a real event. We see that the individuals were affected, and some in a permanent way. So whatever this was,
it was a weapon.
It was,
It was a frequency vibration type of weapon. Hey, we have this question from Gord in Canada. It says, Bill, could we be fighting a world war now with weather and earthquake weapons?
Well, that's a great question, and I've read before that countries in the United Nations, including our nation, signed agreements that they would not use this technology against each other as a weapon of war. So it's very interesting, and I find it very interesting that we've had the three, and we here on the East Coast, we were faced with they thought the Maria hurricane was going to. Some of the models had it slamming into Cape Hatteras and then coming right up through Maryland, where I live, and going right on up the East Coast. And thank God that wasn't the case, that the models now show it that it's, taken a turn out into the Atlantic, praise God. But it is very interesting that you have all these things at one time, plus the earthquakes. Look at all the earthquakes that have been taking place. Two in California.
Another one just hit Mexico today.
Where did it hit?
Another one hit Mexico today. I believe it's 6.1.
Oh, my goodness. So, I mean, something is going on. Now, is this God himself that is giving this wake-up call? It's possible, but also it's very possible that in my feeling on this is I'm leaning more in the direction of technology that man has acquired from these fallen angels, and I really believe that it is more of that is taking place now, because I think when God finally has had enough, he is just going to lower the boom. And woe to those who are not making God first. And look, I'm not saying this to scare anybody, and people are free to worship or not worship. That is God gave us free will. But I'm saying this as words of wisdom and urging to those out there who are listening in. I'm begging of you to consider what I'm saying here, that it is really time to inquire. If you don't believe what I'm saying, pray about it and say, God, if you're real, give me a sign. But I really want you to consider the possibility of coming back to God. God never leaves us. It's we, by our free will, that leave him. So come back to God. Make him first. Bring Jesus back into your life. And consider what I'm saying. You don't have to believe it, but pray about it. And I urge you to do this, because now is the time.
Going back to your earlier point about Aleister Crowley, there's an ongoing effort by history revisionists to say dig up Confederate soldiers and either, I don't know what they're going to do, burn them or whatever. But hey, man, I'm all for digging up Aleister Crowley's body. I'll punch that dude in the face. I just like to dig him up and punch him in the face, because he's been causing trouble even after he's dead, for things like that. All right, let's get on to this question from Phil. And
boy, Daniel, you're so right.
All right. Hey, this is from Phil in North Carolina, it looks like. Did you notice the planet that was seen in Alaska and it was huge? Did you hear about that?
I didn't hear about it, but I saw something interesting, and I've been researching the Nibiru Planet X thing for quite some time, and I find it interesting, and I do believe that it is real. Now, is it something that's going to cause a cataclysm? I don't know that, but I saw something really interesting when the eclipse happened, and I was watching Fox News, and they were showing the eclipse, and I believe it was like it would have been 10 or 11 o'clock to the sun. This red object and I saw it clearly for several seconds, and then right underneath of the red object was this flashing. It had to be some sort of craft. It was like strobe. It was a strobe flash, and then Fox went tight on the shot and got both of those things out of the shot and went tight on the shot of the eclipse. It got those two things out, but I saw them clearly. So was that Planet X? Was it a UFO underneath of that? I really don't know, but it was something, and I saw it clearly. And other people saw it as well, and there are videos out there that people who were watching this, they got it on video. So it was very real, whatever it was.
What about this talk about Planet X? Is that thing coming back here, Bill?
And again, I mean, I think that's what, I personally think that's what I saw that was, near the sun on the eclipse. I think it is this Nibiru, this Planet X thing. Now, is it a cataclysmic event? I don't know. But there certainly was something there at 10 or 11 o'clock to the sun during the eclipse, and there was a strobing, flashing object underneath of that. I saw it clearly, and other people got it on video, so it really happened.
Well, I would say that this is really an exciting time to live. Now, whether or not we ascribe to the hurricanes and earthquakes and the planets, and the alignment of the planets as signs, certainly interesting things are happening, and they're happening rather quickly. It's almost like we've got to be up on our theology, up on our faith, up on something, up on our knowledge, up on our preparedness, something, because it's coming. Everybody's kind of got this feeling something's coming, and I really don't like to say that, because you go back to 2012 or the year 2000 and people feel that's the definitive moment. I definitely don't want to fall into that category. But on the other hand, something, the earthquakes and the hurricanes and the planetary alignments, there's just a little bit of something going on, making you think.
I totally agree. I agree, and this is why I'm urging people to consider a relationship with God, making God first. And this has to be a very personal thing between you and God, and a very real thing. And if you consider what I'm saying, and you're sincere, and you really make this covenant with God, and this connection that no man can tear asunder, not even the devil himself. If you do this, your life will be tremendously blessed. It won't be perfect. Nobody has a perfect life, and that's reality. But it will be much, much better. You'll have much comfort in knowing that you have something to look forward to. When we leave this earth, there really is a heavenly kingdom that we will ascend to. So I would pray that would bring peace and joy to anyone who would have such faith.
There is a lot of people that think that that because of this September 23rd not happening, that there never will be. I mean, for this date, I've seen some sparks out on social media that if nothing happens today, they're done with any sort of date setting, any sort of event saying this is pointing to something. Should people take that view that if anyone from now on, this is like the final fraud perpetrated, particularly on the people of faith, but also those who are godless oafs, don't believe in anything. Is this the final one, and from now on, no date should ever be set again? Or in fact, wouldn't that mean, isn't there some biblical allegory that says when they shall say that he's not coming, that's when he comes?
Exactly right. And for me, again, this goes back to how the show started out. There's no man that could tell me, on this date, this is when it's going to happen, unless God himself comes to me or that individual, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God has come to that individual and said, hey, this is it, and you tell the masses, then I would consider it. Otherwise, it means nothing to me. It's false, because if God has not said this, and if God has not sent Jesus or an angel to say this, then it means nothing to me. It's false. So hopefully people will say, I'm not listening to any other men again about throwing out these dates. I mean, there are people that are on the 700 Club all the time that write these books about these dates. And like you mentioned, 2000 and the 2012 and all these other things, and they keep pumping these dates out. Before that, it was 1996, and they keep writing these books, pumping these dates out. They're selling the books. People are buying them up, and they're getting panicked, and nothing happens. So I would never believe any of these people again. And if someone were to come forward with a statement that, hey, this is the date, well, then they better be able to back that up with God himself that came and spoke to this person. Otherwise, it's false.
Okay. All right, Bill Bean, we're right at the top of the hour. We take a 5-minute break. We just turn your audio down over there for about 5 minutes. But before we do, anything about your website or anything you've got going on that people can click on or go to and check you out?
Absolutely, and I thank you again, brother, for having me on. I'm enjoying it very much. And for anybody out there that is in need, please contact me, billbean.net or billbeanministries.com, and I'll help you in any way that I can. Or if you just want to order copies of my books, you can get it all right there at the 2 sites. So thank you, Daniel.
Okay. All right, we're going to turn you down now and go to a 5-minute break. All right, everybody, thank you for watching the first hour of the Edge Television broadcast. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Edge Television broadcast. My name is Daniel Lott. If you've missed any of the exciting first hour, it will begin to replay in our main player directly after the show. Additionally, we'll put it up on our YouTube channel and put it in podcast form as well, and put it into our TuneIn Radio playlist. Our TuneIn Radio channel broadcasts this program 24 hours a day, 7 days a week across any platform, any device. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Let's go back to our newsmaker line and welcome back Bill Beam. Bill, welcome back.
Thank you, my brother.
Well, it's good to have you back here on the program. I want to pick up a little bit where you left off. You didn't go there very far, but I'm going to go down this thing, man. Talking about the charlatans out there, the fear mongers. I tuned into Jim Bakker's program the other day. Now, just a clarification. On the Edge's website, there is links to food storage where you can buy, a basic amount of food, say for any type of thing. But there's no fear mongering going on. I never said that anything's coming, but I tuned into his program, and man, he is saying, dude, he's saying, hey, you got to buy. He said you got to buy $1 million worth of stuff, and he said it's so bad, it's coming. He's going like this: the financial breakdown is coming. Don't you hear me, people? And if you buy our supplies, that when it's empty, God will miraculously fill your buckets. Buy now. I'm thinking, man, what a kook, man, what an out. I said, look, man, go back to your air-conditioned dog houses, or whatever you was making money on back then, or your gay house. I'm not sure. Buy Tammy Face more make, however you did it. But he's found a new way. He's found a new way to finance his operation, and it's like the same old Jim Bakker. And instead of all the goofy predictions that he was making back in the day, now he just fear-mongering. It's probably a lot more financially great for him over there. I'm thinking, how many people are doing that?
He's one of many. And let me tell you something. What's more amazing, now really think about this, and I want everybody else listening and watching to think about this. The amount of people that are falling for this, that fall for this, and support these people, and buy those products, and keep people like him on the air, it's just mind-boggling. And, these types and the Benny Hinn's and all these other, it's just amazing. They stay, Joel Osteen, this guy was caught red-handed lying, told several lies about how he didn't want to let in anybody from Harvey, and said his church was flooded. The church was not flooded. Made up all kind, and then said, "Well, the city of Houston didn't contact me to be a shelter for these people," and all the other churches in the area willingly opened their doors to the residents there in the area that were being affected. So, here this guy gets caught red-handed. Telling these lies, and there are still people that support him. He's still filling that church up every Sunday, and what I found to be even more appalling than the lies and trying to turn some of those people away was that once he was caught, he was pressured to bring in some of the victims into the church as a shelter, And then that Sunday, when they had the first service, after I think it was a week went by, and then they had the service after that, when they passed around the collection plates, they passed them around to those victims and expected those victims to tithe monies in this collection plate. Now, here's the bigger question. Why wouldn't good old Joel and everybody there take money out of their pocket and put in the collection and hand it to those victims to try and help them to rebuild their lives and get shelter or food or whatever it is? But he took from them. So is this not just the ultimate head scratcher, how people could still follow somebody like this after that?
Wow. Wow, that is despicable. You know what? I got news for Joel Osteen. God gave him a commandment 2,000 years ago to open his damn church over there. I don't know. He's waiting for the government to do it. What? You're right. He was caught red-handed, man. Now it seems like I'm smacking on everybody, but there's another show called True News, and on that show, the guy was saying that he was down in Florida. His operation got miraculously passed over by the hurricane, but he says over there, True News, he said, but he just got a word, okay? He got a word that he needs to build a dome that's so big that the next time a Category 5 hits, that now listen, his people, his relatives, the people that work for him, their dogs, their cats, and their fish, he said this on his program, will have a safe place to go. I'm thinking, what the? And he goes, and in case God doesn't show up, and I'm thinking, well, man, in the first hour, he says that God miraculously saved him, but just in case God doesn't save him in the next time, that he's going to need donations to build this massive dome structure that can survive. And all he got to do is people got to feed it, is send their donations so that he can, he can build and keep his people safe and his fish. I'm thinking, are you crazy? Who's going to fall for that crap?
And there are people that will fall for it, Daniel. That's the sad and unfortunate thing. So again, I'm sending out an urgent plea to anyone and everyone that is watching or listening here. Please think about things before you go into them. Think. Don't be impulsive. Don't be led by somebody. Consider what's being said and pray about it. And if you're not a praying person, to try and really reason this in your mind before you commit to giving monies to somebody. So it's just, there's so many of these types of people out there now. Benny Hinn was another one that, if you remember this years ago, he had this announcement that he made to the congregation, and people like Osteen and Benny Hinn, they have, thousands and thousands of people that come to their church every week. Osteen, it used to be Olstein, now it's Osteen. He has like 17,000 people a week that come into that church that used to be the Summit, or the Houston Summit, where the Rockets play. And so these people are mega wealthy. And Benny Hinn addressed his gigantic congregation and said, God spoke to me. And he said, God said that we must have a larger facility. I'm going to have a 72-hour telethon, and I need $12 million. Well, they had the telethon, and he, sure enough, raised that $12 million in the 72 hours. And then he came back the next week after that and said, God spoke to me again. He said, it's not the right time to build. There was no building ever built, and he held on to that $12 million. Yeah. So there you go.
There you go. Just like Tim LaHaye's holding on to all his money, saying, hey, you don't want to be left behind. Here's the instruction guidebook, how not to be left behind. All you got to do is just buy it, man. Well, there's a whole lot of people that have been left behind, man, down in Puerto Rico and in Florida and Texas.
Yeah. The world did end for those people. And that's the way you have to look at it. I mean, just really imagine this for a second, that, these storms went through with such ferocity that their lives are destroyed now. Homes are gone. Cars are gone. Jobs are gone. It's just heartbreaking. And God bless a man like J.J. Watt. I'm down on the NFL and I'm down on the NBA and sports in general, because most of these people are spoiled, selfish individuals. They're these spoiled millionaires, and it just burns me up. But I will say this: kudos to J.J. Watt of the Houston Texans. He was proactive and raised, I think, almost $30 million in funds for the relief aid for those people down in Houston and those areas. So God bless J.J. Watt. He is a prime example of how athletes used to be. He is a minority now, a rare breed in professional sports, because most of these people are just selfish, spoiled millionaires who want everything and don't want to give anything.
Yeah. Well, when Michael Bennett goes out in the middle of the field and makes it, see the protest now, it went from taking a knee during the national anthem before the football game. Now it's during the football game when Michael Bennett makes a hit. He raises the fist up in the air, and I'm thinking, how much money has he sent down to Houston or Puerto Rico or Florida? I don't think he sent a damn cent, man. So maybe he ought to raise his hand and say, he raised his fist and say, I'm going to send money. I think he's raised his hand and say, I'm going to send money, but I somehow I don't think he is. You know, I don't even know what he's complaining about, man.
Daniel, before this even came in to where, you know, these people are doing what they're doing now, and now, by the way, they have the kids that are on these little football leagues, the little, not the Pop Warners, but the even smaller football leagues where there's kids, 11, 12 years old. These kids are now taking a knee.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is just unbelievable. And this is what happens when these kids look and see these players doing this. Well, they're going to emulate that. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what's happening. And, before this even started, God was really convicting me in my spirit. I was an athlete, Daniel. I love sports. I was a very good athlete, baseball, football, basketball, boxing, wrestling, you name it. I mean, I excelled in it. However, God has really been convicting me in my spirit for probably the last 2 years that this NFL and NBA and really all of it, it is no good anymore. It is corrupted. Money has corrupted all of it. And just look at the NFL. This is a league that employs rapists, murderers, abusers, the guys beating on their women, you name it. Some of these people are real criminals.
Yeah.
And I know of some of these individuals that are playing in the NFL now that are registered sex offenders, and they're playing in the National Football League. Now, you tell me, how is this possible?
I don't know. But I can tell you what, that goes back to what I said in the first hour about somebody, probably the communist. Maybe these beings you're talking about from other dimensions are undermining everything that makes America America. It's kind of a globalization. And I mentioned, I went down a litany of checklists they seem to have. Well, undermining people's, you're talking with the kids, obviously, their patriotism has got to go. Say the national anthem, you sit down. Well, who made that damn rule, man? I mean, where did we agree to that? And when Roger Goodell says of the NFL, he says, hey, you're to Trump, you're disrespecting the NFL. And you're causing division where we're all about unity. I'm thinking, what's unifying about raising your fist up in the middle of a game or taking a knee during the national anthem? I'm not sure where's the unity. Who are you unifying there, man? Because it's not Americans. But anyway,
let me make this clear for those who don't understand what the raising of that fist means. That means black power. That's what the raising of that fist means. Okay, and again, I am not racist. I love all people, but I'm telling the truth. Look it up for yourself. This is what the Black Panthers used in their heyday. That fist is symbolic of black power. So I find it utterly amazing that you have these types of things that could go on, but yet when it's on the other side, when you have the KKK, which I do not agree with any of that, but when they have these things, well, then everybody's in an uproar because it's these white racists, fascists, this and that. But yet, on the other side, blacks or any other group can say whatever they want to say and have whatever cause it is, and that's acceptable and okay at the expense of the white people. I mean, I saw a white, she was probably in her 20s, this white kid. I saw pictures of this the other day. I couldn't believe it. She was wearing this shirt that said, all white men are racist. And this is the narrative. This is the mind programming now that these people are going under. So they're seeing the white man as an enemy, everybody.
Well, this crazy world we got going on here. By the way, speaking of that, Maxine Waters, the Obama Brain Trust man, she says that Ben Carson is an educated fool, and I'm thinking, really? I don't know if you know this, but Maxine Waters went to some funeral here just in the last few days, and in the funeral, the whole thing, she got up there and all she said was how she was going to impeach Trump. I'm thinking, man, who taught you got any sense of morality at all? It's unbelievable that she would use a funeral because her hatred, her diabolical hatred of Trump is just, and this goes back to our earlier conversation about chaos. That's chaos. Ben Carson is a really good man. And, I hope I'm waiting for Donald Trump to get, Sheriff David Clark in his cabinet somehow, man.
Yes, it's another good man, Larry Elder, good man. These are men of God. These are men of truth. These are educated men. These are men who see the truth for what it is, and they're labeled as these haters, and they're labeled as sellouts and Uncle Toms and even worse names. I mean, it's just incredible. These are good and intelligent men who are doing good and positive things for our country, and yet they're labeled as villains. Meanwhile, if you flip that over on the other side, you have individuals like the good old Reverend Al Sharpton, who owes $5 million. $5 million in back taxes. Just think about that. If you or I owed $5 million in back taxes, we would be locked up. The key would be thrown away. We wouldn't be getting out of prison for quite a while. This man's still walking around, just happy-go-lucky and creating chaos wherever he goes. He's no peacemaker. He is a professional agitator. And so you have someone like him and Jesse Jackson and all these people who are agitators. They're not peace activists at all. And so you have these people, and you look at them and say, okay, how in the world can the black community or the white people and other groups that are, liberalized, how can they possibly look at these individuals as the good guys and then look at a Ben Carson, and David Clark and Larry Elder as the bad guys? I just don't understand it. This is where I say there's some kind of mass mind control or brainwashing taking place here.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to Pastor Manning?
Yes, I have. I listened to him, and I stopped listening to him when all of a sudden he turned against Trump. I don't know what happened there, but he doesn't support Trump anymore. But I used to listen to him quite a bit because I thought he was another good man that was really telling it like it is. And they, too, labeled him as an Uncle Tom and a hater and all this other kind of stuff because he stands against all of this craziness.
All right. Earlier in the broadcast, Bill, you were slipping out information about your view that there may be entities involved with the weather manipulation. Now, what would they be doing?
Well, I think about it like this. This is the reason I think there's an end game in this. So we have all of this chaos going on in so many different ways. And so, in my opinion, if it's not God himself causing this, then the devil is in the details. And so, if in fact Satan, the devil, has minions here that are on this earth, and it could possibly be through this CERN device that is open, which I think is a huge stargate that's opening up these portals, and I think that's why so many people are being affected by demonic forces. This is why I'm so busy, because of more and more demons perhaps coming through that stargate into the earth, onto the earth. I really believe that these could be the frogs talked about in Revelation, that it is possible that these reptilian aliens that are part of the satanic kingdom are here, and they are creating all of this garbage because in order to conquer, you must divide. So it is divide and conquer tactics. That's straight out of the devil's playbook. because when we're united, we're strong. So you made a good point earlier in the show that if the good and decent, hardworking Americans came together and said, we've had enough of all this, then we could put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Because, again, the sheer mass of numbers of the people who would be fed up to say we're stopping this, it would be mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So
well,
the devil knows this.
Well, we were talking
and
a little.
So he wants to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say sort of to encapsulate what the as far as racism goes and what unity really is. We saw that in Houston, where there was no black and white.
Yeah.
And we saw so many. I don't know how many pictures I saw. There's YouTube videos now, just picture after pictures of blacks and whites helping each other. There's no color. There's no political party. That's the way I see America. That's the way I want America to be in the future. And there are people that don't want that. They want people to hate each other. But fortunately, there is in the country a spirit of unity that, even though it's still surviving, and in the worst cases, it comes out and is shown. But when things are kind of settled down, the agitators want to just tear it up.
I agree, but there's a spirit on them, see? And the spirit is the devil. So again, his MO is to divide and conquer. So if he can get everybody fighting, that's perfect for him, because he becomes empowered off the negativity, and his forces can come in. It's very easy to conquer when divided. So you make a very good point again, and I just saw a video on this before the show started, that there's a new movement starting. And that new movement is something that, boy, I would be behind 200%, is that blacks and whites are now coming together in support for our president, who I think is doing a fantastic job, by the way. Congratulations, President Trump. I think you've done more in your short time in office than any other president that I can ever remember. Even Reagan, who was my favorite president, you have surpassed him. So God bless you, and continue to do good for the people of America. That said, I am seeing this new movement where blacks and whites are now coming together in support of our president. And boy, if this can really pick up steam, then we could have something to really just take the country over the top in unity. And then that would definitely put an end to the Antifas and all the resistance and opposition, because when the people come together in this way, forget about it. Especially if God is in this, there is nothing that can stop us from having total victory and taking our country back.
Well, that sounds more powerful than a beer summit, man. All right. Somebody curious how the live chat asked this question. Does the Prince of the Power of the Air mean weather control?
That is a very good question, and I absolutely believe that it could. Part of that meaning could be that. Now, in my deliverances, I always go around and anoint all of the electrical outlets or TV sets or computers, whatever it may be, because of that scripture that Satan is the prince and the power of the air, which I believe is the air waves, and certainly could be a meaning in that as well. So that's a very good question, and I certainly could see how it would be possible. And so make no mistake, the devil does what he is allowed to do. God is still very much in control of everything. Satan is a created being. So when you try to match the power of God up against what the devil has, there's no comparison. He's a child. He's a created being. He's an unruly child, but God is allowing it because of the free will that he gave to man. So it is necessary for there to be an adversary to man because of our free will. So I look at the devil as a very unruly child that God is allowing to have this short time to do what he's doing, because this comes down to the ultimate test of faith. And those who remain strong in faith, in what I call warrior mode, which means faith, strength, and courage. And when we're in warrior mode, we refuse to lose, because we know that God's with us and for us. And if we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God is with us and for us, then nothing can stand against us.
All right, we have this question here. It says, why would God delegate power over natural forces earthquakes, weather, to the evil men through technology. And you really haven't really said whether it's God making this happen or it's more of the evil people that are running the world making this happen. But if they are, then somehow they've been allowed to have that technology.
And I did say this, and I just said that God has an unruly child in the devil, that he's allowing this short time to do these things. Mm-hmm. And so, in my opinion, I believe that it is the devil behind this through minions and human minions that now have this technology, because this is fallen angel technology, these D-Wave computers, this CERN, Stargate, and all this other stuff. We can't even begin to understand this. This is so far beyond our understanding. There is no possible way, in my opinion, that humans could ever come up with this kind of technology. So to me, this is fallen angel technology. We now have it. They're using it and changing our world. And what this is, I just said it, this is the ultimate test of faith, because there's an end game in this. So the end game is that if you divide everybody, you get them in chaos, then that brings confusion. So if you think back now, and again, I'm not against anybody. I love everybody. However, the first agenda, certainly in the Obama presidency, was the homosexual agenda. And that was to make sure that homosexuals had a voice and had rights and were really prominent. So it went a step beyond that with the transgender, transsexual. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you're taking these steps into acceptance. And confusion is abound because of everything that's taking place. So these people, under this confusion, could very easily say, like I read a story about a 12-year-old boy who decided that he wanted to be a girl, and he had that sex change, and then said, wait a minute, what have I done? I want to be the boy again. So again, the devil's in the details, and he brings this confusion. So the end game is, if you have conditioned the masses to accept these things as normal, mm-hmm. the next step is the ultimate step, which is the merging of man and machine, mm-hmm. transhumanism. It's already in the beginning stages. There are men in Japan that are currently marrying robots. They're making these robots look like sexy women, and there are men that are marrying these things, taking these things. So, again, this is part of the mass mind conditioning, and they will get people to accept this as normal. And the end game is that one day, I'm firmly convinced that they're going to make an announcement saying we have the greatest technological discovery in the history of mankind. We now have technology through these D-Wave computers that if you take this chip that we will insert into your right hand, you will become immortal. You'll never die. You'll never be sick again. All your financial information will be on the chip, your medical information, your history, and whatever that is, your keys. You won't have to unlock a door anymore. You just scan your hand. You know, if you want to buy groceries, you scan your hand. This is what they are going to market. Now, I want you to think about this, Daniel. Okay. Remember when those iPhones came out? People lined up for them. They stood in line for them. I did not. And I still don't have one. I don't want one. I have one in my desk drawer that I never use. But they stood in line for those things. So if they would stand in line for those iPhones, what do you think is going to happen when they market this chip as the thing that if people accept this, they'll never die? These people are going to line up in the millions to take this, and this is the end game. This is the mark of the beast, and these people, some, are going to take it. Hmm.
Yeah, the dolts that are easily controlled are going to take out. But, Bill, I'll tell you what, I'm a fighter, man. I'm not going to take no chip. How about yourself?
Nor am I. And I pray that people will look, I don't want to twist anybody's arm to do anything or to believe the way that I believe or you believe. However, we have to mention this information because this is reality. You could see it. I mean, I saw this 20 years ago, how this was going to unfold, and it is unfolding this way. So I urge people to really be sober and vigilant and really think about things before being led. And so I find that in our world, people are mostly followers. They're looking for somebody to show them the way. And so that's the easy thing to do, is to have somebody to show you the way, and then it's a piece of cake after that. So if people are that easily led, oh my goodness, they're putty in the hands of the devil.
Hey, you forgot one of Obama's stellar achievements, man. He got transvestites in the little girls' bathrooms. You forgot about that achievement.
And that's another thing right now, and think about this, with this Pizzagate thing. This is a worldwide pedophile ring that reaches in the high places, in the highest of high places. And boy, I'll tell you, you were so right at saying that they would love to pass these laws to where pedophilia would be legal and all these kinds of things, because you have, and I mean it's massive. Now, I ask you this. Now, this James Alefantis, this guy that owns this Comet Ping Pong Pizza over in D.C. on Connecticut Avenue, I don't know the man, never met him, and I don't want to meet him. But, and I'll say this, he hasn't been convicted of any crime, and people have done stories on him about being a human trafficker and all this kind of stuff. Is he? I don't know. He sure knows. But let's just say that if you do a little research into that place and the businesses on that street, that he owns most of them now, and you do some research into this, you'll be sickened. I mean, absolutely sickened. Something really bad is going on. And boy, oh boy, all I could say is, how is it that a pizza shop owner becomes the 49th most powerful man in Washington, D.C.? GQ magazine had this poll, and James Alefantis, owner of Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Washington, D.C., is the 49th most powerful man in Washington, D.C. How is that possible? It's a pizza shop owner. So you have to ask yourself these things and then do research and be prepared to have your eyes open wide when you dig into this. It's very, very disturbing. But again, knowledge is power, and power perceived is power achieved.
Wow. That definitely sounds bad. Didn't Bill Clinton take some plane flights to some little island somewhere where there's a bunch of kiddie porn or little girls over there or something?
It's part of this ring, and that guy Jeffrey Epstein is another. Look, do I know the man? No, but I've read about him, and I've read some horrific things about him, and he did time in prison for pedophilia and the horrible things. And I find it interesting that when the campaign started, they tried to, the Clinton people tried to associate Epstein with Donald Trump. But in reality, he was associated with Bill and Hillary, and they took many trips with him to this Haitian island, and they have these ties with Haiti to where they have the kids being trafficked, out of there and flown to private islands that Epstein owns, and then they are sold into this human slavery, this human sex trafficking. I mean, this is horrific. Look, since January 1st of 2017, record amounts of children are missing from the Washington, D.C. area. Virginia, which is nearby to Washington, D.C., leads the nation in missing persons. So something really bad is going on. And I think Trump has started, since he's gotten into office, there have been hundreds of pedophiles arrested and some of these smaller rings broken up. And I pray that God will protect and guide him into getting into this universal, this gigantic pedophile ring, and I pray that God will work through him to just disintegrate it. And I absolutely believe that these reptilian forces that are in the satanic kingdom are behind this, because the devil wants blood, and he wants flesh, and he wants all of these horrific things done before him. And these people that are carrying out these acts think that they're gaining great power by doing this. And then you have this other player in this, this Marina Abramovic. This individual is the female version of Aleister Crowley, and she is among us right now. She is the Pied Piper of all of these stars in Hollywood and athletes and politicians as well. She's linked to Bill and Hillary and Podesta and all these people. And this woman, all you have to do, don't take my word for it, research everything I'm saying here. I urge all of you to research it for yourselves. And this woman is wicked to the core. She is she follows the Crowley teachings. Satanist to the core. They say, oh, she's a performance artist. Okay, her Twitter handle is Morena666. I mean, that should be good enough right there. And she does paintings with human blood and sperm and breast milk and you name it. This individual is wicked to the core. And she's the one that does the spirit cooking, and she has these celebrity events to where she had one of these events that the plates ranged from $10,000 to $25,000 a plate, and they had all these stars there, all the stars that you could think of today and yesterday, stars of yesterday. They were there as well, and they were bringing out these bodies and putting them on these big circular tables, and the bodies were not human. They were, some of these bodies were made of like red velvet cake, but they looked like human bodies. And some of the other bodies were brought out that had the meals in them. And the way to get the meal was to take these big butcher knives and daggers and cut into these things, and that's how you got your meal. So this is a promotion of cannibalism, and this is why you have entertainers like this Katy Perry that has this video and song out called Bon Appetit. This is a promotion of cannibalism, and all these stars are suddenly coming out with these songs and videos promoting cannibalism and pedophilia and sex abuse as well. This Will Smith and his son, I think his name is Jaden, they were recently at an event in South Korea promoting this guy. I think his name is Jay Park, and he made a video based on sex slaves down in the basement of Comet Ping Pong Pizza. You can't make this up. If you research this, you can connect the dots. And so that's what this video was about. And I just, your mouth is wide open. You can't believe that you're actually seeing these things. But it's true. It's there. These people are doing this. They are sold out, lock, stock, and barrel. And I think once they sell out, they can't get out. The only way out after that is death.
Well, they definitely sound like some unredeemables there. But, Bill, you know, isn't it interesting, though, that sort of the left, which I equate, of course, with the Democratic Party, which I also describe as a demon-crat party, because every evil bird comes out of that thing, every evil mess and every pathology of sickness comes out of that side. But
I agree.
You know, they say that, you know, something about, you know, they don't, people that believe in God are weak-minded and stuff. Then if God is a myth, why is Hillary Clinton wishing that she could get a voodoo doll of Trump and prick him with a pin like some kind of witch spell, man? I mean, and then you got thousands.
I'm glad you brought this up, Daniel. I'm so glad you brought this up, because the other lady too, what's her name, Nancy Bradley or whatever it is, they just came out with that story on her and Hillary as well. This is very real. These people are into this occult black magic now. This is no game. I mean, this is true. They really do these things. And there was a man, Larry Nichols, that came out and said that Hillary traveled, and supposedly, according to him now, still travels to L.A. very often and participates in these satanic ceremonies. And this Bradley woman, too, I think her name is Nancy Bradley, just came out and said that she feels that she's killed people by putting these voodoo curses. And her husband, I can't think of his first name. I don't know if it was Bob Bradley. He was a very high-up individual in the Washington Post. So these were high-profile people. And this woman is coming out saying, she just wrote a book, so she's coming out saying these things now, that she has put hexes on people, these voodoo curses, to where she believes that she's actually killed people through the curses. So these are people that are giving these mainstream interviews now and have no problem sharing, just like the one that just came out and said that she's put and I think it's that very same lady that said she has put a voodoo hex on President Trump. And then there's these witches that came out, and they're saying that they've put these curses, hexes, vexes, and spells on our president. And we bind and rebuke all of that by the mighty power of Yahweh in Jesus' name. And we take every one of those curses, and we return them to the sender sevenfold. I declare this and command this by the mighty power of Yahweh in Jesus' name. May it be so.
Yeah, may their curses bound upon their head like 1,000 gnats gnawing their eyeballs out into icky goo dripping down their face. But I'm just saying, so they're saying that God doesn't exist, but they're over here doing seances, and so I was thinking, okay, they're all saying Trump, that side of the aisle saying Trump is a kook and is this and that. Well, what do you call a person who is nearly became the president of the United States who likes to do voodoo? I mean, how is it that Trump is crazy, but the one that almost got it and never did, everybody's asking what happened. Well, what happened was she lost because because nobody likes her. But she's going to bring voodoo into the White House. So I don't see where she's any dumber than the people she says other people are.
And I have news for you. Voodoo was already in the White House because it was rumored that Michelle Obama's mother is a voodoo practitioner, and she was living in the White House at that.
Yeah, go figure, man. Probably drinking blood up over there. Bill, if are we going to see any type of disclosure? The technology coming from the other side, the beings, are they going to become is there going to be a time when they say they're announcing they're coming? Now, I do know that with the Vatican and their telescope called Lucifer out west, they're trying to get ahead of the game. What they're trying to do is they're trying to see whatever's coming first, and then they're probably going to prophesy it and then say, see, we told you they're coming. They're our friends. And so they're going to try to get them in a Catholic church. But I'm just saying, are we going to see any sort of outing of these beings, or is it just going to be sort of these outrageous things keep happening on the earth? We don't know who's really doing them.
They're already here. They've been here. And I really believe they are our shadow government. What do they call them? Level 9 or something. They're the collective. I believe they are the shadow government. These are the ones that are control. And they are here. They have been here. And yes, I think that it'll certainly be the Pope and all those, that there will be a day to where they, once they've engineered the minds enough and put the people into a place of acceptance of just about anything and everything, to where they feel that they could handle seeing these entities or beings without a panic. And yes, that day is coming. And again, the devil is in the details of that as well. So we have to be very, very, I won't accept them as any kind of anything, is in the way of goodness, that's for sure, because not until Yahweh sends Jesus back into this world with his 20,000 chariots and all the angels with them will I rejoice and be glad and know that God has fulfilled the promise of that great and terrible day. But so, when this gets introduced by the Pope or whomever, I don't expect that will be a good day. I think that will be the beginning of the official beginning of the New World Order and the one world religion, and just changes like you just won't believe, and that will involve everybody being chipped with the mark of the beast, so everybody's subservient. And then once a person receives that chip, make no mistake, they're cut off from God. They're beyond redemption, and they're cut off from God. It's the end game. It's over. So even if a person takes that chip, which is, in my opinion, the mark of the beast, once they take that and that the person says, oh, dear God, what have I done? I don't want this in me, and they start to rebel against that beast system, somebody's going to be on the other end of a computer, and they're going to press a key on a keyboard that is going to activate the death of that rebel individual. I guarantee you it'll be as simple as pressing a key on a keyboard that could cause a death in that person. So, again, this sounds so far-fetched, it sounds so unrealistic, but yet it is absolutely the truth. And I just warn everybody and caution everybody, no matter what, do not accept those chips, because that is the end game. And do you know, Daniel, that there are actually pastors out there in some of today's churches that are telling their congregations that it's okay. If you accept the mark of the beast, you can still be redeemed. And that is a lie from the pits of hell.
Whoa. And that's some crazy stuff. Bill, when the Bible talks about there come a time when even the very elect could be deceived, is there a differentiation between, say, the generalized Christian world and the elect, or are they all the elect?
All the elect. And, we see deception right now with those scripture changes. There are some of us that could see this clearly, and we know that it's true. I mean, it is unmistakable. Yet there are others who swear that there are no changes at all. They don't see any different, that there's nothing to it. And so this is just craziness and mass hysteria. And I really feel sorry for those people because, and I pray that God opens their eyes, because there is no doubt about it. Not only have the scriptures in the King James Bible, have they been altered and continue to be altered, but there are scriptures in other Bibles now that are being altered as well. And not only the scriptures, other things in our existence are being changed and altered, whether that is in music or movies or products, whatever it may be. That's the truth. And the truth is the truth, and there's no substitute for it. And sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. And this happens to be one of those times.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, with technology advancing the way it is, by the way, it is kind of freaky that the new iPhone has that facial recognition. But what about the, is it not going to work for for Muslims, man, with wearing the burqas? Are they going to have burqa recognition or what? What's going on there?
They'll find a way, and I don't know what, the serious answer is on that, but I guarantee you they'll find a way to ensnare them as well. And look at the other thing that's coming out or getting ready to come out, the vampire watch. Have you seen that, Daniel?
No,
so where they have this thing, it's like one of those Apple watches. It looks like one of those Apple or Fitbit things, and it is going to take your blood. It is literally going to be able to take your blood.
Let me take your blood.
The vampire watch.
Whoa. That's sick, Bill. That's sick, man. That's the sickest thing you said all night, but it sounds like it's true.
It is true. And for anybody out there, please Google this. And another thing, the CERN logo is 3 interlocking sixes. Look it up. It's there. Google with that little multicolored thing is 3 interlocking sixes.
Coincidence.
It's just, it's all around us. We are in a time like no other, and people need to be sober and vigilant and wake up and come back to God before it's too late.
Well, it's interesting. The head of Apple hates Trump, and pretty much everybody that voted for him. The head of Google hates Trump, and everybody voted for him. I mean, all these tech firms, man, they are God haters, man, to the nth degree. You're right. So they're going to, like the devil always has a copy, somehow or another, then they're going to take their tech and try to create a situation where people can say, hey, I can live forever if I turn over to their side, man. Their side is the dark side. It's always been the dark side, man.
And the true end game is right there, because once people take that, Once they have those chips inserted into them, it's over. You're cut off from God. Game over. So please consider that. And believe me, they're going to, just like they lured people in with those iPhones and people stood in line and waited for them, this is going to be far more attractive than an iPhone. When somebody's telling you that if you take this, you can live forever, look at how many people are going to fall for that.
Hey, what about those of us who got an Android, man? Are we safe or what? Or are they trying to get us too?
Well, let's just say that those of us who are sober and vigilant and awake and who are making God first and keeping God first, and those of us who walk in real faith, strength, and courage are not going to be tricked. We're not going to fall for the deception. They're going to try and get rid of us, and they're going to deem us the haters and the ones that need to be eliminated, because we will be the poison pill for this new utopian society that is going to be put together. It's going to be so beautiful. Everything is going to be so wonderful. So you can't have these haters like us being a thorn in the side of what the devil is putting together.
That goes to the scripture says that they'll call good evil and evil good. That's pretty much where we are right now.
That's where we are right now. Absolutely. That's exactly where we are. And now, they don't even try to hide it anymore, Daniel. I mean, people like Lady Gaga and this Madonna and these Rihannas and Jay-Z's and Beyonce's and on and on and on, the Katy Perry's and all these other people, they don't even try to hide it. They are open about their satanic worship. There was a clip I saw with Lady Gaga, an interview, and she said she swore to Lucifer, as she was having this interview with somebody, whoever it was. She how some people would say they swear to God, when they're having this conversation. She said she swears to Lucifer and that it's true and all this. And so these people are very open about who they are, what they do, and who they're worshiping. They're very open, and they are agents for the devil because they are sold out and they are true slaves to their masters in that entertainment industry. So they have to go along with these agendas, and they have to promote these things. And if they get out of line, then they are simply brought back in for updated mind conditioning, whatever that translates into, whether it's electric shock therapy, whatever it may be.
Right.
But I could think of a few of those stars that rebelled and started getting out of line, and then they got a hold of them. The most recent is that Kanye West individual, and then they bring them back in and they make them compliant again.
Well, yeah, and it seems to me I remember some rapper girl collapsed on stage. I mean, sometimes they're programming. First they start to babble, and then their programming breaks down, man, and they drag them off stage, and then they reappear somewhere else like nothing happened. But isn't by nature, though, man, these stars, these Luciferians are usually lesbians anyway, aren't they?
Well, I mean, again, it goes right back to the Crowley thing. Do what thou will is the whole of the law. So anything goes, anything is acceptable. So don't be, for instance, this Johnny Depp, he's another one. I mean, and again, don't take my word for it. Research the guy, and you'll find some very disturbing things about him. And his hero was a guy named Hunter S. Thompson. Hunter S. Thompson was a pedophile. He made snuff films, so he was a murderer, a pedophile, made these snuff films, and snuff film is a pornographic film to where somebody actually gets murdered in the film. That's what this guy did. He's since gone from the earth now.
Good.
Got out of here light, if you ask me. But this individual was very wicked, and this was Johnny Depp's hero. So they have controllers, and I believe that he was a handler and controller for Johnny Depp. And I think that these people, when they get into that industry, they have to go through some horrific things in order to be a part of the game.
Well, yeah, if you ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean, man, Johnny Depp's always walking around with that limp wrist, man. I don't know what kind of pirate walks around with a limp wrist.
Well,
he'd be getting in the
let's just say
backside.
he's a different type of individual. And another thing, look at some of these people. They go through what's called shaming rituals. And that is where, when they're being broken into the club, the men will have to put on a dress or, dress in drag, and, the women will have to do these certain things. And it's all part of initiation into the gang.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And now who's performing these initiations?
There are, and in my opinion, there is a real collective called the Illuminati, and I believe that these people are the tares of the Bible. So, the Scripture says that the wheat will be mixed with the tares, and I believe that they are the tares, and they are of the satanic seed line, to where Jesus said to the Pharisees, "You're vipers all. You are of your father, the devil." And so I do believe that they are offspring and part of that satanic seed line that still very much remains on the earth, and they are in control of everything in the entertainment industry and now sports as well.
The devil's always been known as the father of lies. Now, do you think he made a promise to the witch Hillary that if she did his bidding, that she would be the president? And being a father of lies, is he having some good laughs now that she's not?
Oh, I'm sure he is, but he's not done using her. He's not done working through her. And this is another thing I want people to be aware of. Just take a look into her background and Clinton's background. Look at all the deaths surrounding them, all the people, and I mean up until recent deaths that are surrounding these people. You'll just be amazing. It's got to be in the 50s or 60s, the amount of people that have been killed around Bill and Hillary Clinton. I mean, just take a look at it, and you'll be just astonished. And it's not just them, it's other people as well. Take a look at them. Jesus said you know them by their fruit, so look at their fruit. Look at who they are, what they do, and who they're hanging with, and what they're saying, and you will be astonished. And they also have this interesting agreement with the Customs Agency. This is part of the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, boy.
That they can transport and receive works of art without anybody inspecting it, and this is from anywhere in the world. So no one is allowed to open up the crates from the customs to inspect any type of artwork that is going to and fro connected to the Clintons. And that, there's also an interesting clause in there that states some of the artwork can be live.
Whoa.
Yeah. How interesting is that?
Quite coincidental there. Yeah, no, you're right. The body count, the Clinton body count is not a joke. There is no possibility of a coincidence that all these people, I mean, when does the coincidence stop? Is it at 10 deaths, 20, 30, 40? At what time does it stop? The rational mind has to say when you're in the 70s and 80s, and the only connecting dots to all these people is they know the Clintons work with them or they know them or been involved with them. I mean, the last guy, there's a couple of recent ones where a guy committed suicide by putting a bag on his head and then put helium up in that bag. But he wrote a note saying, "Hey, this is just a normal suicide. Nobody did, what? What kind of suicide note is that?" Then the prosecuting attorney down there in Debbie Wasserman Schultz area, he committed suicide. Yeah. The guy that controlled where the Clinton Foundation ripped off Haiti by all the millions they got in donations, that guy who was running the operation in Haiti killed himself. I mean, and then there's Seth Rich, he killed himself. He had the goods on the Clintons. He shot 18 times or whatever happened to him, and they even took his wallet. I mean,
shot in the back, shot in the back.
Then there's others, the class, it's like they have some kind of fun, especially when they have a left-handed guy shoot himself in the head with his right hand. It's like they're having some fun.
There are some people on this earth that are above the law and beyond the law. They don't follow laws, they make them. And these people are untouchable. But I say to them, and they know who they are, you are going to have a day. There is going to be a day of reckoning that is going to come upon you, because God sees everything. He's allowing you to do this for a short time. But when that day comes, and when he decides that it is the day of reckoning, woe to you. That's all I can say.
Wow. Well, that sounds like the Clintons are going to have a lot of woes going on there.
No question about it, and I wouldn't want to be them. Look, we're all guilty of something. There's nobody perfect that walks the face of the earth, and I'd be the first one to say that I've made many mistakes in my life. However, I have never gone out of my way to purposely try and hurt anyone or to do evil against anyone. And these people, that is their agenda. They are committed to wickedness, and they are committed to creating miseries for others for personal gain.
Yeah. Hey, didn't the Clintons though? Didn't they disband their foreign foundation, whatever? It's like all the money's dried up as soon as she didn't get elected, which proves that they were only given to her because they were expecting favors once she became the president, and then she's not, and all the donations dried up.
It dried out, and President Trump has something to do with that as well, because he started speaking about that, and so I think some people may have reevaluated and thought, okay, what are we doing here now? And you're exactly right. When she didn't get to where they thought she was going to be, a lot of those people who were paying for favors, suddenly went away because she wasn't going to be able to do anything for them. Certainly nothing that they thought that she would do for them, in her being the president.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that they're sort of in league with the Muslims too. Here's that Iwan Amran or Hoodoo what now? I don't know what his name is, but Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This guy has got. This guy is such a crook, man. He was on his way over to Islam land after he fraudulently got a couple $100,000 loan from a bank. And I'm thinking, a mortgage company. I'm thinking, how is it that this company could be so stupid as to give him that loan? Listen, I don't know if you heard this, but he actually they turned him down. Said we need to speak to your wife. So he called him back and said, maybe he changed his voice. Said, I'm the wife of Islam Amran. And then they said, oh, okay, we'll go ahead and give it to you and wire the money, man. There's so many shenanigans going on, and it's still going. There is no law on the Democratic Party, just none.
No, because again, a lot of these people, especially connected with them in the high places, are above the law, and their mindset is, hey, we don't follow the law. Are you kidding me? We make the laws. We don't follow the laws. Do you know who we are? And that is the mindset. So these people are, and look, a prime example of this is that these people can send and receive artwork from all over the world, live artwork, which in my, when you think about something like that, it's probably kids being trafficked back and forth.
Whoa. And
nobody can open the crates and look.
Hey, that's just.
So what's going on here?
What about Jeff Sessions, man? Is he ever gonna indict Hillary or take all some Huma Abedin or whatever happened to Wiener, man? That guy, is he getting a pass from his child molestation over there?
I think they all are. And I saw a thing the other day saying he's facing prison and all this. I don't believe that for a second. I think these people are going to all skate right through because there's nothing that can be done against them. They are. These people have such great power. It just boggles the mind. And another thing you got to think about, okay, Obama leaves office as a mega millionaire. How's that possible? And then the other one, that Rice woman, that Susan Rice, public servant. What was her salary? Like $150,000 a year or something. She too is a mega millionaire. How is this possible? What, these people hit the lottery or something?
Well, right. So is Bernie Sanders, and it seems like every one of them.
How is it possible? People need to start asking these questions, saying, "How is this possible? You're a public servant. You're making a certain salary. So how is it that all of a sudden you're these mega millionaires?"
Somebody in the live chat said they're probably out there selling babies, getting some quick cash that way.
I'll tell you, Daniel, there's things that I've studied about and researched that I wouldn't even want to speak about on the air about this Pizzagate garbage. I mean, it is so disturbing. It could shake you to your very core. And this is real. It's actually happening. And there are people that are carrying out these horrific things, and nobody's doing anything to stop it.
In the alien agenda, it seems to me, in order to control the world, to bring through it, what technology or whatever way they're going to do it, they have to undermine the United States. They have to break it apart. Now California.
Yeah, well, the world revolves around the United States, so absolutely, you got to attack the greatest, most powerful place, and then everything else is a piece of cake.
So really, every time you raise the flag in your yard or something, or go to a Veterans Day parade, you're pissing off some aliens, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, just think about it. Think about, like you said, the Hobby Lobby thing, just utterly ridiculous. And then when people want to put a flag, in their yard, or if they live in an apartment and put it on their balcony, I've read stories like that. And they said, no, you can't do that. That might be offensive to someone. And I mean, are you kidding me? We live in America. This is the United States of America. We have a flag. I don't worship that flag no more than I worship the Bible, but that flag does mean something. It means that this is our country, and there are people who fought and died for the freedoms that we have in this country in being the greatest country on the face of the earth. So it does mean something. So where the offense should be taken, where the offense should come in, we, the people, should be very upset and offended when we have a minority of people telling us that we can't display the flag or don't become too patriotic and things of that nature. I think that is very offensive.
Right, and they accused Trump of being patriotic at his speech at the UN. So you're too American.
If you remember, when Obama left office and Trump made his first presidential address, Obama was telling people, don't become too patriotic.
That's some sick stuff
what
right
is
there.
This?
You know what? I think World War II veterans, man, if they were around today, I know some still are, but man, there was a time when America was good and they had common sense, and now of course there isn't any common sense now, and common sense is labeled as hate speech. But I think, like you said earlier, there still seems to be a vast number of people that know right from wrong. And if they would ever get together, they're a real threat.
I think that's getting better, Daniel. I'm praying this because, and the reason I'm saying this is because we're starting to see, like the NFL, for instance, people are starting to tune them out, and their numbers are in the toilet, and their numbers are going to continue to go in the toilet. And I hope the same thing for the NBA and all these, organized sports that are doing what they're doing. So, yes, I agree with you. I think that it is quite possible that there is now the people are waking up and they're saying enough is enough. So I certainly hope that is the trend. I hope that this movement of blacks and whites for Trump certainly continues to gain momentum and steam, and that becomes just a tremendously powerful movement. That will go leaps and bounds in silencing Antifa and a lot of these others that are, just bent on creating discourse and being these malcontents that they are. I certainly pray that will send a very strong message that America, real Americans, have had enough.
Well, let me kind of get toward the end here, but I want to say this about this, what Trump said at the rally last night about the people that take a knee and disrespect our national anthem and our flag should get the hell out of here. Basically, this is the way Trump rolls. He just hung, like he's done since day one, he hung out this real shiny object. And the shiny object, he does it every time, and they always bite on it, whether it's Megyn Kelly or the 16 other Republicans. He hangs this shiny object out there, and the media, he does the same thing. They bite on it, and he pulls their chain, and they lose every single time. So what's going to happen is the NFL, I believe, maybe tomorrow, I'm not going to watch, maybe somebody can email me and tell me, but I believe
I won't be watching either.
More people, more NFL kooks are going to disrespect the flag and because they're all liberals anyway.
That, yeah.
Now what's going to happen is it's going to backfire. It's going to make people even madder. So he's hung out a shiny object, And they're going to bite on it like every one of them that's come against Trump has done. He's a master at that. He hangs out this shiny object. Yep. They bite on it. They think they got him. This is it. This is the one. This is the event, whether it's blood coming out of the eyes or John McCain's a traitor or the rapist coming from Mexico. Every time they bite on it, they get bit, man. I mean, it's when Marco Rubio came back with a hand joke and he had to apologize. He couldn't do a Trump, but they bite on it every single time, man, and they come against him and they lose. It's something almost supernatural about that. It's fun to watch.
It's supernatural, Daniel. I believe that God is with him, and I do believe that God has his hand on him, and I believe that God's protecting him, and we need to continue to pray for him and his family and Vice President Pence and his family as well, because there are those out there who wish to do real harm to them. So I urge everybody to keep them in prayer. And may God continue to bless him and guide him, and may everything that he does and everything that he touches flourish and be successful for him and his family and for America.
Well, I did hear that ESPN has had 600,000 cancellations in the last year or so. They've gone completely
I
political.
haven't watched that channel in years, and I would never watch it again. So good. I hate to say these things because I always wish well and good for people. But when you have these types that are doing what they're doing, I can't wish well or good for them. And so the best case scenario is for these people to go away. And here's another thing, that if these people who are so unhappy here and President Trump is not their president and they're just not going to adhere to any rule of law, why don't you get out? Why don't you maybe President Trump can find an island somewhere and relocate all of you and just go over there and don't have any law, live by the Crowley principle, do what thou will is the whole of the law, and you enjoy yourselves and live it up, but you can't come back. So once you're gone, you can't come back. Go and start your own colony and island and all that and enjoy.
You know what? It just reminded me what that would look like. It would look like in Escape from L.A. with Kurt Russell. The criminals were running the island, and all the kooks and freaks and just nasty people were all together living. That's the cesspool that they're going to create for themselves, because the good people.
Oh, no doubt about it.
The good people here is the stable glue that keeps things from completely breaking apart, and they have no idea what that is. And Bill, we're right at the end of it, and somebody's requested, and I agree with them. For you, maybe you could end with a closing prayer for tonight's broadcast.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you so much for having me back, and I look forward to the next time. And thank everybody out there for watching and listening in, and may God bless all of you. And Father, I thank you and praise you again for this blessed appointed time. And Father, by your mighty power and your mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, I bind and rebuke the devil and all of his demons and any curses, hexes, vexes, or spells that may be manifest or try to manifest here on anyone that's involved in this. And I bind and rebuke them and cast them out off and away. And I ask you to loose the blessings of Deuteronomy 28 upon everyone that's watching and listening. And may everything that they do and everything that they touch be successful. May you bless their coming in and bless their going out, and make their enemies to flee from them in 7 different directions. May you bless them with an abundance of love, peace, joy, good health, and prosperity for life. We give you the praise and the thanks and the glory, Father, forevermore, in Jesus' name.
Amen to that. All right, Bill Bean, I thank you for coming on the Edge television broadcast. Can we have you back on again sometime?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, my brother.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll talk again.
God bless you, Daniel.
All right, bye-bye. All right, everybody, that was Bill Beam back on the Edge television broadcast. Next week, we're going to have with us Carl Gallup. If you don't know who he was part of Sheriff Joe Pyro's posse looking into the fraudulent Obama birth certificate. What a fraud that guy is, man. So we'll be talking about that next week. He also wrote a book called Gods and Thrones. He believes he can tell us who is really behind, or the gods behind, the authorities on this planet. There is some ruler, the controllers of the controllers. We'll find out next week on the Edge television broadcast. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching the show. Be sure to tell a friend about the program, and then just spam them in your contact list. Put a link to the Edge in there and send it to them any way you got to do it. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and also become a YouTube subscriber. that is it. Daniel Ott for The Edge. Bye-bye.